Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be showing you guys how to draft a bustier pattern. It's a very simple method that I use, so let's get to it. So first things first, as you can see on my pattern paper, I already marked 1 inch at the top of the paper. Then next I'm going to take my horizontal measurement. So I'm going to start from my bust. My shoulder to my bust is 10 inches. As you can see, I marked 10 inches on my paper. Then shoulder to my under bust is actually 13 inches, but I normally add half an inch for ease at the under bust. So I marked 13.5 inches instead of 13 inches. Sorry. Then shoulder to waist is 16 inches, but I added 2 inches for sewing allowance. So shoulder to my waist now will be 18. So I'll simply connect all the lines together, the dots together. So next I'm going to measure my shoulder measurement, which is 16 divided by 2, which will give me 8 inches. Then I'll add half an inch for sewing allowance. For this, it's just for those that want to add yoke onto their bustier. It's not really necessary, but I'm doing this for those that want to add yoke to their bustier. So I came down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. Then for my neck width, I measured 3 inches. Then I simply connected my neck width to my shoulder slope. I also measured my neck depth 3 inches also. So it depends on you, on how low or how high you want the neck to be. But for me, I just simply measured 3 inches for both the width and the depth. Then next, I measured my armhole measurement, which is 8 inches. I simply connected the line together with my shoulder slope. So now I'm going to label all my lines. This is my bust. This is my under bust measurement. And this is my waist. This is to avoid any confusion. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to measure my chest line. I usually use between 6 to 7 inches. So it depends on how low or how high you want the bustier pattern to be. So I marked 6 inches for this pattern, and I'm going to draw a straight line across. Next, I'm going to divide my nipple to nipple measurement by 2, which is 8 divided by 2 will give me 4, and I'll add half an inch for sewing allowance. Then also on my bust, I'll take the same measurement, which is 4.5. I'm simply going to label this. Then on my under bust also, I'll take the same 4.5, and on my waist, I'll take 4.5. I'll connect the lines together. So next, right above my bust point, directly above it, I measured 1 inch. So right now I'm going to take in 2 inches inwards, and I'll take in 1 inch outwards, like so. And this measurement varies, it depends on the bust size of the person. For bigger bust sizes, from like bust 36 to 40, you can use 2 inches in and 1 inch out. But for smaller bust sizes, you can use 1 inch in and 1 inch out. So you simply connect with your curve rule. You connect the 2 inches to the 1 inch I made on my bust point. Connect. Then at the other side, I don't need to use the curved part of my ruler. I can simply make a straight line or a slight curve. Please ignore this mark that I made here. Right under my bust, I'm going to mark 1 inch, like so. And on my under bust, I'm going to mark the same measurement I took on my chest line. That's 2 inches inwards and 1 inch on the outside. Please ignore that mark I made. Then I'll use my curve rule to join the 2 inches to the 1 inch right under my bust. Then I'll also connect these two together. And at my waist, I'll also take in 2 inches, like I did at my chest line and my under bust. Take in 2 inches, then 1 inch on the outside. Then I'll simply connect the lines together. Please, if you are enjoying this video, kindly like and subscribe. You can also share. Thank you. So at my armhole, I'm going to divide my armhole measurement by 2. This is for the yoke. I'll divide it by 2. Give me 4 inches. Then I'll mark half an inch. Then I'll connect the line together. Then I'll use my armhole curve to create my armhole. So right now I'm going to create the type of neckline I want. I want a sweetheart neckline. So I came down by 1.5 inch. It depends on you. If you want your neckline to be straight, you can leave it that way. Then I'll just connect the line together. I'm also going to join my armhole together, like so. So the next step is to take my bust measurement. So my bust divided by 4 is 9 inches. I divided my bust by 4, it gave me 9 inches. I'll mark the 9 inches. But remember that we removed 2 inches at our chest line and 1 inch, making 3 inches. So I'm going to add that 3 inches right after my bust circumference. I'll add it. Then I'll add 1.5 inches for my sewing allowance. Next is my under bust circumference. My under bust circumference is divided by 4, is 7.5. Then I'll add the same 3 inches here that I removed. I'll add it. Then I'll add my 1.5 inches for my sewing allowance. Please don't forget to add this 3 inches, the one that you removed. If you don't add it, it will come out short. Then also on my waist, I'll divide my waist circumference by 4. Then I'll add these 3 inches. Then I'll also add my sewing allowance. Then I'll simply connect my lines, that is my allowance lines. I'll connect them together. Then I'll connect my main measurement also together. So I'm going to label it. That space is my allowance. So there we have it. So at my neckline, I'm going to connect it with my curve. That's for those that want to use that part for their yoke. I'm going to connect it with my curve. So if you're using this part for your yoke, please don't forget to add your sewing allowance on your shoulder. That's half an inch for sewing allowance. Don't forget, please. So there you have it. This is the bustier pattern. So right now I'm going to cut it out. Please watch closely as I cut it. If you can also pause the video so that you don't make any mistake. Please, when cutting on your material, don't forget to add half an inch for your sewing allowance on the neckline. It's very, very important. Please don't forget. So this is it. This is the bustier pattern. Quite simple, right? It's actually very easy and simple. So now the back. I already measured my zip allowance. I used 1 inch for the zip allowance. You can use either 1 inch or 1.5 inch. Then I marked 1 inch at the beginning of my paper. Please don't forget to mark your zip allowance. You can use 1 inch or 1.5 inch. It's actually very important. So next, I measured my shoulder. I divided my shoulder by 2, which is, it gave me 8 inches. Then I added half an inch for my allowance, which is 8.5. Then I came down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. I marked 3 inches for my neck width, the same way I did in the front. Then I simply connected my lines together. Then I marked my armhole measurement, which is 8 inches. I'll connect it together. So next, I'm going to mark my chest line. Unlike the front that I measured my chest line at 6 inches, I'm going to mark my chest line on my armhole measurement. The same 8 inches I used, I'm going to mark my chest line there. Then I'll measure my bust point, which is 10 inches. Then my under bust, which is 13 inches. Then my waist is 16, but I'm going to add 1 inch for sewing allowance, making it 17 inches. Then I'm going to connect the lines together. So I'm going to label the lines. This is my bust, my under bust, and my waist. Sorry, my paper is looking a little bit rough. So now I'm going to divide my nipple to nipple by 2. It will give me 4 inches. I'm not going to add any allowance to it like I did in the front. So I'm going to mark 4 inches on all my horizontal measurements. Then I'll connect the line together. Next thing I'm going to do is to take my dart measurement, which will be ½ inch on both sides. Then I'll take it also on my under bust, take ½ inch on both sides, and also on my waist I'll take ½ inch on both sides. This will be my dart measurement. Then I'll connect all the lines together. Then right under my chest line, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. I'm going to connect that 1 inch to my bust. But before then, I'm going to take my bust circumference. My bust circumference divided by 4 is 9. And I'll add that 1 inch that I removed from both sides, will make it 10, plus 1.5 inch for sewing allowance. Also on my under bust, I'll divide my under bust by 4. Then I'll add that same 1 inch that I removed. Then I'll add 1.5 inch for sewing allowance. On my waist also, I'll divide my waist circumference by 4. I'll add the 1 inch that I removed. I'll add 1.5 inches for sewing allowance. Then I'll connect all the dots together. Then the second line I'm drawing right now is my main measurement. The first one is my allowance. I'm simply going to label it. So I'm going to use my curve to connect that 1 inch I made under my chest line to my bust. So there you have it. This is the back part of my bustier. That's my allowance. So I'm going to cut it out now. So this is the back part of my bustier pattern. Simply going to join everything together after cutting it on my material. So there you have it.